The WNBA had a plan, a sparkly media perfect TikTok clicking kind of plan. Caitlin Clark have been a fan base. Angel Reese would bring the edge, and together they create a lead-defining rivalry. Corporate sponsorship for roll-in shoes of fly-off-shelves highlight reels with loop or on ESPN and Instagram reel the like. It was a perfect setup until the setup fell apart. You probably saw it or at least heard about it. Angel Reese, if you're here for the real story and not to filter version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. Tribe, fresh off the momentum of a college career and social media fame, was poised to launch a very first Reebok shoe. Yes, that Reebok tried to claw its way back into relevancy using the height of a new generation. They weren't betting on Reese. They were betting on a moment, a cultural collision at WNBA All-Star Weekend. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese primetime, and then boom, Caitlin Clark gets injured, doesn't play, doesn't even show. That's when the entire plan started to crumble faster than a busted layup. And speaking of layups, oh boy. Let's talk about the actual game for a second, because while Reese was getting the full superstar treatment in marketing campaigns and press releases, her encore performance was telling a very different story. Yes, she's rebounding like machine, nobody is denying that, but finishing at the rim, it's been a blooper reel up. Gone rogue, wide open shots turn into memes. Like, we reached the point where TikTok edits are comparing her missed bucket to a cursed 2K glitch, and when your entire shoe campaign is built around dominance and you start training for missed layups, yeah, that's not exactly the brand synergy Reebok was hoping. Or it's not like didn't try. The whole rebuff strategy was practically engineered to ride the wave of Caitlin Clark's stardom. Reese and Clark were everywhere in tandem. Magazine spread, interview, crossovers, podcast mentions. You could practically hear the marketing execs screaming, if we can't get Caitlin, we'll associate with her. But here's the thing, association doesn't equal admiration, especially when fans are watching both players with a magnifying glass. Caitlin Clark, for all the media frenzy and polarizing headlines, has been delivering. She's been clocking record-breaking ratings, pulling in loyal fans from college during and selling out arenas in cities that never even blinked at the WNBA before. Her style, fast, confident, fun to watch. Her image, sharp, clean, earned her shoes flying off shelves. No gimmicks, no viral PR stunt needed. So when Clark was now the All-Star mix, it wasn't as a scheduling hiccup, it was a full-blown marketing disaster. Reebok had time to shoot drop when military precision. The All-Star weekend was supposed to be the moment, photos, coverage, hype, all culminating in Reese stepping into a Queen Bee era. But without Caitlin there to create tens, June, or to be the contrast, the whole launch felt flat, forced. Like try hosts a rivalry party when the other guest of honor never repeat, and fans noticed. Social media did what social media does best, tore into it. Comments sections turned savage. People started asking the obvious question, why are we being sold injuries as a superstar when the stats and performance aren't matching up? And to be fair, Reese is good. There's potential, there's hustle. She's now flop by any means. But that doesn't mean you can copy-paste Caitlin Clark project and expect to see same results, because Clark was manufactured. Her rise wasn't plotted on a whiteboard. It was built on games, on shots made, not to shots taken. Meanwhile, Reason's visibility has felt curated, strategic, less about what's happening on the court and more about what's being said about it. And in a lead that fighting tooth and nail to get mainstream attention, fans aren't tolerating what they're calling PR players, not when their money, their time, and their support are at stake. And then just when it seemed like the hype machine can get more awkward, the Indiana Fever dropped a curveball. Enter Chloe BY. Now, if you're not familiar, Chloe BY is a rising star with serious energy. She's flashy, fast-paced, and most importantly, accurate. She can shoot. Oh, she spaces a floor. She brings something electric that the Fever desperately needed with Clark benched, and while she's technically a bench player stepping in, she brought enough heat to make people wonder, wait, she should be starting. That, of course, more attention, because suddenly the narrative was no longer about Reason Clark, it was about who's actually delivering when it matters. And for Reese, that spotlight got even harsher, because while the Reebok deal still loomed over, the encore performance wasn't improving. In fact, it was becoming a liability. Commentators were biting their tongues during games. Analysts pointing out that the viral clips weren't as anomalies, they were patterns, missed layups, hesitant finishes, fouls that make zero sense. Suddenly, the brand shine began to tarnish. Reebok started pulling back internally. Sources suggested they were debating whether to delay the shoe release entire early or rebranded with less flashy out, and fans, they started tuning out now in the league. But from the illusion, because when you strip away the promos, the hashtag, the glossy photo shoots, what's left? Are you giving fans reason to care for Caitlin Clark? The answer is yes. Even injured, she's still drawing attention, still signing autographs, still doing community work, engage with fans, and showing up in ways I feel genuine. Her absence in the All-Star game wasn't career killer, it just made people want to back faster. That's star power. But Reese, her moment into star backfired, not because she's a bad player, but because the people around her tried to force a storyline that wasn't ready. They tried to replicate Clark's grassroots loyalty using corporate shortcuts, and fans caught out instantly. The worst part, it didn't have to be like this. Reese's charisma. She's outspoken. She could have taken a slower path to greatness, let the game speak first. But instead, she was cast as a rival, the villain, the anti-Clark before stat backed it up. And the result, a narrative collapse. The WNBA needs stars, but more than that, it needs authenticity. Manufacture hype, get exposed real fast when fans are watching every move. And now in the aftermath, we're seeing the consequences. Reebok gamble, a cautionary tale. Just because a player has a strong social media presence doesn't mean they're ready to carry a brand. And just because someone looks like a superstar in interviews doesn't mean fans will buy the shoes. Fans aren't stupid. They know when they're being sold a storyline, and when performance doesn't match the promo, they walk away, they unsubscribe, they switch to other players, other teams, other stories. And if the WNBA doesn't start paying attention what fans ask, we want the towel and consistency. The real rivalries build on game, not gossip. They risk losing momentum they worked so hard to build. So here we are. Caitlin Clark's injury didn't just sideline her, expose how heavily the league and its sponsors were leaning on her presence to make everyone else look good. And when she was gone, it was like the lights went out real. As missteps on the corner off just made the contrast even sharper. Chloe BBY, a wild card, the kind of player who might not have a PR machine behind her, but might actually earn one soon in Reebok. Well, let's just say the shoe launch that wasn't my go down as one the fast as for hopping sneaker debut. Since I am blowout in the end, to take away simple, you can't fake greatness, you can buy loyalty, and you definitely can't manufacture star power by standing next to it. Fans will always flock to what feels real, and no amount of marketing muscle can save a campaign in the corpse. Rodic, whether the shoe, a player, or narrative isn't holding up under pressure. So to the WNBA, Reebok, and anyone else watching, maybe stop chasing the shortcut. Let the game speak first, because when hype fades, only the truth stays on the scoreboard. And for the fans still sticking around, still hoping for real rivalry, real drama, and real moments, don't worry, the season's still young. And if there's one thing basketball never runs out of, its plot twists. Drop your takes in the comments. Is the real Clark narrative dead? Is Chloe BBY about to become the next breakout name? And what would you do if you are running or Reebok right now? Hit subscribe for more chaos, more clear bags, and more meltdowns. We got plenty more drama coming your way. So we left off in the middle of a marketing meltdown. Reebok clenching its pearls, Caitlin Clark healing off core like the chosen one, and Angel Reese Danny, the spotlight that suddenly got very uncomfortable. But the chaos, it's just getting started, because here's the thing about momentum. It's ruthless when it starts slipping. It doesn't just slow down, it snowballs. And for the WNBA, the Reese-Clark dynamic was a glittery storyline. They decided bet the house on they turn up of on his rivalry so loud that when the sound cut out, when Clark was injured, when Reason's game is fired, 11 awkward echoing silence, the kind you feel in your chest. That silence is where doubt creeps in, where fans start whispering the questions. Execs hope no one asks, like, do we crown Angel too early? Was his whole new era thing built on shaky ground? Meanwhile, the internet doesn't do silence, it fills it with jokes, clip side-by-side comparisons. And they've been ruthless one minute. It's a highlight reel, Clark's buzzer beaters the next. It's Reese breaking a layup while someone overlays circus music in the background. fair, not always, but viral, oh, absolutely. And that's where we need to talk about fan fatigue, because at first people were eating it up, the bless you legacy, the trash talk, the buy you Barbie brand. It was fresh, bold, unapologetic, but fast forward a few months into the W and the vibe has shifted fans once, but the jerseys and posts of the hype tweets are now asking what are we actually rooting for, and if that question's floating around, it means the brand stories. Cracking Reebok, bless them, thought they were setting off fireworks. Instead, they lit a sparkler in a rainstorm. Internally, people close to the campaign have been tight-lipped, but the optics are screaming. Promo photo shoots have gone oddly quiet. Merge pre-order slowed. That thunderous shoe drop of the season energy gone. You know, it's filling the void now. Chloe BBY, yep. Well, all eyes were supposed to be glued to this resources. Clark shut down close. But in the corner, quietly stalking Sat, lighting a plays, and most importantly, connecting with fans. She didn't come in with a media entourage. She didn't need a narrative. She brought a jump shot and let the basketball do the talking. And when you know what, people are listening now, the fever. We're supposed to be Clark's team. Everyone knew it. They knew it when she signed, they knew it when the ticket prices doubled, but Clark gets injured. And suddenly we see the shift, Chloe stepping up. The pace changing and fans leaning like, wait a minute, who is this? Which introduces a very spicy dilemma. What happens when the backup start become the fan favorite? And what happens when a manufactured star start getting outshone by the organic one? Because let's not pretend like the Reese versus Clark machine was accidental. No, this was assembled in a lab. The contrast was just two. Perfect white Midwest and golden girls versus black Southern glam queen. Quiet versus loud, fundamental versus flashy. A rivalry wrapped in every cultural buzz where marketers love to exploit. But rivalries only work if both players are delivering, and when one is sidelined, the other is slipping. The storyline collapses like a bad plot twist. Just suddenly the public sees through it. They start noticing the things that were always there, but got drowned out by the hype, like how recess struggled to evolve or game under the pro spotlight, how defenders have figured out how to trap her, how that college confidence sometimes translates as recklessness in the W. And how despite the fashion for persona and boat interviews, the actual basketball part, yeah, that's been shaky. Let's not forget the WNBA isn't just try and survive anymore. It's trying to thrive. There's real money on the table now. Ticket sales are up. Streaming numbers are climbing. And big name sponsors are circling. This league is no longer the niche darling. It's creeping into the mainstream. And with that comes one non-negotiable results, which is exactly why so many fans are done with the smoke and mirrors. They're not here for carefully curated personalities who can't produce on game day. They are here for the Chloe E's, the Caitlyn, the players who make you stand up during the fourth quarter, not scroll your phone while waiting for a post-game tweet. And here's where it gets brutal. The league's insistence on clinging to the Clark-Reese formula could actually be studying the growth of other stars while the media was busy force-feeding as one story. A whole roster of compelling players were getting ignored, players who now, thanks to the fallout, are finally getting noticed. Which brings us to this, we're cultural moment we're in now, where WNBA fans, especially the newer ones pulled in by Caitlin Clark, are hitting a collective. We're on the restore Eli line, and some are quitting altogether, not from the lead, but from the illusion, the fake rivalries, the branding, first ball, second machine. Let's be honest, a lot of people tune in for Clark. She was a draw. The ratings didn't lie. Her college games were events. She had people who had watched women's basketball since the 90s, scrambling for WNBA lead pair subscriptions. And when she showed up to the league, same effect, sold out arenas. New merch drops, Twitter threads longer than CVS receipts. So when she got injured, fans were still paying attention. Wait and see who else would step up. And what they saw from Reese, it wasn't enough. Meanwhile, what they saw from Chloe, it was something. It was movement, promise, skill. And it didn't come with sponsorship deal or a podcast monologue. It came with actual buckets. But here's the real kicker, the whole high versus reality debate isn't just a real problem. It's a league-wide wake-up call, because as women's sports edge their way into mainstream, there's this temptation to package everything like reality TV personalities over performance, Instagram captions over in-game chemistry, and guess what? That's not just Day Annabelle, if the W want to keep growing and actually keep those new fans who showed up for Clark and stay for the drama, it has to get real fast, start spotlighting actual gameplay, start promoting players who are ready, not just marketable, and maybe stop try to manufacture another case. When you to be developing the next one, whoever she is, because here's where fans really they want magic, the kind of magic that happens on a player gets hot and drops 30 on a Thursday night. They want rivalries of build, knock it, staged. They want underdogs like Chloe BBY coming out of nowhere and torching defenses. They want authenticity, and right now Angel Reese is standing at a crossroads. She could lean into the criticism, work on our game, and come back better. She's got raw talent, she's got the athleticism, and she definitely has the media presence, but none of that matters if she keeps being the punch line in every Miss Lizzet montage. She has to flip the script, because if she doesn't, someone else will, someone with less flash, fewer followers, and maybe zero sponsorships, but a whole lot more game. That's the thing about hype, it borrowed currency. You can spend it fast, but once it runs out, you better hope your fundamentals can pay the bills. So what's next? Will Reebok double down and hope for redemption arc? Will receive bounce back with a clutch game that sounds as a critics? Will Chloe keep snatching minutes and become the W's new as a player, or plot twist? Will Caitlin Clark come back choir? Lee dropped 35 and first game back and remind everyone why she was a blueprint the first place you tell me, because in this league the drama never sleeps, and whether Miss Layups failed, she launches, or unexpected heroes, one thing for sure, the WNBA man. For me to play or two, but the game which is getting good. Let's not pretend like a saga is over, because of the past few months have shown us anything is that the WNBA isn't just a basketball league anymore. It's a soap opera and sneakers, and every episode has a new twist. So let's pick up right where we left off. Caitlin Clark still out, but looming over everything like a ghost in a sold-out arena. Angel Reese navigating a PR storm disguised as a sneaker drop, and Chloe BBY casually emerging ID on bother protagonist no one saw coming. And here's the wild part, this whole storyline was supposed to be about elevation, the league's next step, the young stars taking the torch, the new era we were promised. But what we got instead, a masterclass in overhyping, under-delivering, and underestimate how fast fans will jump ship when the product stopped making sense. Because of the center of all this noise, there's a quiet truth as becoming louder every game. You can't skip steps. Angel Reese is learning that Enron real time coming out of LSU. She was a talk of every timeline, viral, confident, magnetic, but college dominance doesn't automatically translate to pros. It never has, and the W as a completely different beast. The defense is tighter, the rotations are smarter, and mistakes way left forgiving. You miss 3-ups in the college game, he go viral. For a bad night, you mystery, and the pros you start trending weekly. And while Reese was being handed the keys, the brand before the engine even started, Caitlin Clark had already been building her empire. Brick by brick, not with flash, with fundamentals, with deep threes, perfect timing, and that rare ability to make every possession feel like a moment. That's why our absence hit so hard, not just for fans, but for the league's bottom line. See, when Clark went down, the ripple effect wasn't subtle. Ticket resale prices dropped. Bruce dipped, social engagement slowed, people weren't as watching games, they were watching Clark. And when she was gone, a lot, I'm simply stopped, which is a huge red flag for any league banking on a single star to carry the weight of its growth. But instead of diversifying spotlight, they try to manufacture a second Caitlin Clark, just louder, shinier, and in designer shades. Angel Reese became the face of a rivalry that never had time to actually develop on the court. And when a Clark Reese narrative collapsed under its own weight, it exposed just how much was being propped up by hype and hope, not stats and skill. But here's where things get really interesting. The fans and just ditched the Reese storyline. They replaced it with players who've been grinding in the shadows, with underdogs, with up-and-comers ago, now multi-year shoe deals, but are putting up numbers that demand attention. Chloe BBY didn't walk into the league with an entourage. She didn't announce herself for the photo shoot. She just stepped on a court, found a rhythm, and started dropping buckets like she was born in the fourth quarter. And that's what fans are starving for right now. Now, curated chaos, not scripted rivalries, just pure, unfiltered basketball players were actually cooking, which makes the current fallout even more awkward because now Angel Reese is stuck in a kind of no man's land to famous be ignored, but not performing the level her branding demands. And let's be honest, it's not just about mislayups anymore, it's about credibility when your whole identity is built around being that girl, but you're gay.